Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the very, very, very first episode of Tales of the Unberechenbar. I'm the wildcard Tommy Dillon. This is my very first episode of my new podcast, so please bear with me because, let's face it, we never get it right the first time, do we? Anyway, the guy that I'm interviewing today is one of my mentors, one guy who I respect so much in wrestling, the guy who gave me my first shot in wrestling. Ladies and gentlemen, Jonathan Sedgwick.
Thanks for that, Dom. Appreciate it.
It's Tommy. Yeah, right. There's the first bit I'm cutting out. But no, right. Now, I'm going to delve into this situation a bit differently to how other people do it because this is my own thing. I want to do it my own way. So, Jonathan, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Appreciate that.
Right, yes. The first thing I want to talk to you about is you've been in wrestling for, what is it, 13, 14 years now?
2007 initially, so...
Right, so yeah, it's about 16 years.
16, yeah.
16 years, wow, that's a long time. But yeah, I mean, I didn't actually get into wrestling until 2015. First UKW show I saw was in 2014 on my daughter's birthday of all times. Right. Now, you and I have known each other for about 7.5 years now. And the thing I want to really get into on this is because I know you, but I don't know much about you. So what I want to do is go right back to the beginning and talk about how you got into it in the first place. Because it's like, you know, everybody leaves school with a plan, don't they? It's like, I'm going to be a chef, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. My question to you is, was that your plan leaving school? Or did you go down another path, much like The Rock did, and it didn't work out for you and you chose this path? So let's go right back to the beginning.
So when I left school, I started college. And in college I did household electrics. I went in on an electrical course. Obviously, I'd always had a passion for wrestling, always loved wrestling growing up. Obviously, grew up with, started off with SummerSlam '88, it was the first one I ever watched. I had a love for it, so I always kept up with wrestling, always watched it and everything. But when I first left school, getting into wrestling wasn't really something that I thought was a possibility. It just wasn't. Obviously, at the time where I was, there was no wrestling schools around. There were nothing. So I ended up doing household electrics, like I say, and I started martial arts. I did kickboxing, did Wado karate, and then it weren't until a few years later, we had the mobility shop in Osset of all.
I remember that,
mobility
yes.
shop, and we had our children and the firstborn Joe, who's now on the shows.
Yeah.
Big fan of wrestling. Obviously, he got involved in wrestling. So obviously, it was always on. It was it as well. So we ended up. So he wanted all the toys. So we was always getting the toys from the time Toys R Us, or anywhere we could.
Yeah.
But there was always certain things that he wanted that we couldn't get. So we used to import them from America and stuff like that. Then it got to the point where we said, right, we could do this ourselves. So we got in touch with the suppliers and said, look, is it something you'd do with your suppliers? And they said, well, we would if you bought in bulk, which was understandable. So that was it. That's how it started back in 2007. We opened the Square Circle Wrestling Store. It was an online shop to start with. We used to sell on eBay, and then we had the online store came. Because we used to sell like the replica titles, everyone used to say, oh, can we come view them? Because they were so expensive. Which, again,
of course, yeah. I mean, so if I can cut in there, you do find a lot when it comes to, like, especially eBay, is people do try and sell stuff off as like genuine replicas, and then it turns out they're not.
Yeah,
so it's
exactly,
it's understandable that they'd want to come and view them.
Yeah, especially when we were selling them for a couple £100, £250,
exactly.
whatever. They were like, because we had the standard replicas, you had the deluxe replicas, and so the price was increasing. And obviously that's where the whole thing with the mobility and wrestling shop came from, because I used to take this stuff down to the mobility shop, and people would come there to view them, and then it ended up getting to the point where we just transformed all the back end of the shop into the Square Circle. Yeah. It got some traction. I mean, newspapers picked it up, radios picked it up, and they were saying, "Oh, there's a mobility wrestling shop in Osset." I mean, it was exposure, but it was just an outlet for it. It was the starting point of UKW. Yeah. After 12 months of running the Square Circle, we ended up buying his first wrestling ring, and then said to Joe, it was his fifth birthday. Yeah, his fifth birthday coming up, and we asked him what sort of birthday party he'd like, and he says, "Could I have a wrestling birthday party?" Yeah. And it's like, well, you can. I mean, at this point, I'd already met a few wrestlers. Obviously, we have in the shop. We'd had people coming in, and we've already made some contacts, and it was like, well, we can do. I'll see what I can sort out, and then. Everything got arranged, it all got put in place, and it was like, well, what can we call it? So came up with the name WrestleBration. So that was the birth of UKW. 2009, July the 12th, yeah, we did WrestleBration 1, and it was after the show, it was just, I don't know, it was just the excitement of running the show. It was like, that was amazing. I mean, obviously it was only a small crowd, so obviously it was literally just family and friends of his school children that he goes to school with, but it was that buzz of putting the show together and then watching it all play out, and it was like, we've got to do this again. I mean, there was already plans in place to start a show after that, because obviously in the couple of months after that we had Road to the Gold.
With the first champion.
Yes,
Kevin
Thorne won the title. Yeah, so obviously that was just like a small stepping stone, but so just to get an idea of what it was like and everything. But that was it. Yeah, it was just, we're well on the road. Then once I'd done that first one, it was like, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I've got to do. But then we ended up at the Road to the Gold, and it was like his first sort of big show we'd done. We got the 20-foot ring down at that point, and yeah, it was totally different to WrestleBration. Obviously it was on a much bigger scale. We had all the ticket sales and full on advertising of it and everything, so it was a big crowd in there. So then that was it. It's like, right, that this is definitely now what we're doing. That's when we put plans in place to do WrestleBration 2. It's like, well, it's a year old, and it's like, what can we call it? It's like, well, we might as well stick with WrestleBration. WrestleBration 2 it was, so it's like, we need a prestigious venue, something decent to go to. That's when we did the Blackpool Tower. Yeah, it was just, after 12 months of doing...
Ironically, I'm just looking at that poster behind you right now, WrestleBration 2.
Yeah, that was amazing, doing Blackpool Tower. It had such a different vibe, a different feeling to it. Yeah, that's basically the birth of it, how it all began.
Yeah, I mean, you see what it is now. It's worldwide, isn't it? It's all over YouTube. You've got this is a point now, because this is probably not getting put up tonight, but I'm recording this on the 4th of February, which is the same night when the UKW channel is going up.
Yeah, I did that today. I checked it this morning, and it was, I don't know what point it went live, but at some point between midnight and about 8 o'clock this morning when I checked it, it was on. I was in the house and I shouted, I was like, Joe, it's on. Obviously I checked it myself, and it was it's been a lot of hard work. I mean, it's been a month's worth of, I mean, obviously this all began probably a few months back when the first seeds were planted for it, and we started doing all the meetings and everything to get it all set up. And yeah, it's a lot of hard work, a lot of hours have gone into it. But it's going to be good. I mean, obviously the one we went live today is only one of this. It's going to be available on a number of different channels. There's going to be it's going to be accessible all over the world. Everyone's going to be able to access it, whether it be through TV, through mobile devices, your computers. It's literally worldwide, and it's accessible, and best of all, it's free.
Yeah. Well, nobody can argue with that then. Free wrestling. And anybody who's seen UK wrestling should know that it's worth hell of a lot more than free. But it's, I mean, I love being here, I love wrestling here, I love watching the shows, even there's times when I'm in audience and I absolutely love it. But, and I don't know why I'm saying but, there's no but here, this is an and. Right? When it comes down to it, wrestling, it's all about creating moments, creating happiness for the audience. And, I mean, we've seen it all over the world, all over social media especially, is when these wrestlers go into business for themselves and, to make it all about them and forget about the audience. I don't see that at UKW. All the time I've been here, I've seen some highs and lows with people in the back, because some people wanted to do it, some people weren't sure about it, and people have been in and out. But with UKW, it's always been about the audience, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's it. We've always tried to build it as a family-orientated event. It's the UKW was created with families in mind.
Yeah.
So that's always what we've strived to achieve. So that's the type of thing when people come in to train here and whatnot. That's what it's like you work to that audience. Also, as you've seen yourself in training, it's like you work to camera, you work to your crowd. Obviously, you've got to keep them involved because it's we're here for them.
Yeah.
As well.
Well, I mean that's the thing. It's like it's on some shows. It's like you are theatre in the round all the time, but as you say, you do have to play to the hard cam. You have to play to the cameras. You have to involve the audience, not just the audience in the arena, but also the audience watching.
That's it. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's what. Like I said, that's why I've always loved wrestling because I always felt involved.
Yeah, I mean that's it. That's what wrestling is, isn't it? I mean, we do wrestling because we love it ourselves, and obviously the audience come because they love it, and so we're all here for the same thing. So you've got to keep them involved as much as we're involved.
Yeah, and the amount of times you will get somebody who'll come to a show, and then afterwards they'll come up to you and say, "I've never actually watched a wrestling show before because I thought it wouldn't interest me, but I really enjoyed this. I'm going to come back next week."
Yeah, it's that grab into it when they come and they experience the entertainment of it and everything. It pulls them in, and the amount of people that they come for the first time and they're like, "Wow, that's not what I expected."
Yeah. And also, you've done a lot of work with charities as well over the years, haven't you? Because I mean, looking at the poster right there, Down syndrome awareness. We've also had mental health awareness. The show we're doing tonight for the Kirkwood Hospice. How can I put this? The people that you've worked with on that, how did they feel doing that? I mean, do you ever get moments where you've had to take over, not so much take over, but sort of take the reins because you've got more experience and they're sort of like maybe a bit too nervous about it?
In what respect?
Well, it's like for instance, if you had a gentleman come to you and say, "I want to do a charity show let's say men's mental health awareness." If a gentleman comes to you and says that, and then it comes to the day of the show, he's fretting about it a bit, and you have to calm him down because I mean I know from doing this show, it's like I'm fretting like that. But
all the previous ones we've done, we've organised them all.
Yeah.
There's only the Kirkwood Hospice cells that yourself run. That you've taken the reins and done it yourself. Yeah. All the previous ones we've organised, run them. Yeah, it was never something that somebody else has come in and done. Right, they've always been sort of UKW events for that particular charity.
I get it now. Yeah, right. So, but again, you have also rented out your space to other promotions as well, haven't you?
Yeah, there has been times when people have rented the building out and ran their own events here.
Yeah. It's a great building to rent out as well.
It's a ready-made venue, isn't
it? Yeah, exactly. It's ready-made. I mean, you've got what, 150, 200 maximum?
Seating capacity at the minute is 175.
Oh, there you go.
With the tiered seating, but obviously there is scope to put the other tiers in at the opposite side and mirror it, so that would increase the capacity.
And those tiered seatings, I was sat up in them other week for Showdown, and it really makes a difference.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're up or above the action, aren't you? So you've got it's a great visual. Nobody's in front of you. It's
like even stuff that's happening on the other side of the ring, you're just there like, whoa,
see everything. Yeah, it's like being up on the balcony. Obviously, there's obviously scope to do that at some point as well. But again, when you're up there, as you can see from the hard cam and the events, it's such a great visual from that point.
Yeah, that's good. That's great. Yeah, but as you say, it's family orientated as UKW, and not, as you say, your family yourselves are getting involved. And you mentioned your eldest Joe, who's absolutely phenomenal athlete. I'm so proud of how he's come along. I've trained with him. He's trained me. I've learned so much from him.
So it's something he's had a passion for. Obviously, he's had wrestling drilled into him since he was born. So it's just.
I was having a similar conversation with Brett earlier, actually, your other son, because I'm the commentator on the Wednesday night show Genesis. So I always make little puns about this kid has been wrestling since birth. He took his first bump when he was born and all this. But it's exaggerated.
It is near enough, right? I mean, obviously, when we got the first wrestling ring in 2007, Joe would have been 3.
Yeah.
So, and obviously, I'd have put him straight in the ring.
Of course, yeah.
He's been in a ring since he was 3 years old. Brett was born in 2006, so Brett would have been 1 when we got the first ring. And then there's Sean and Owen, which are still training. But again, Brett at UKW was already a thing when them 2 was born, so they've really come through since birth.
Yeah, but no, I mean they're doing brilliantly though. I mean they steal the show all the time.
So I'm saying that's just it's the passion that they've got now, but obviously it's been drilled into them since day one.
Yeah. Well, but you can tell when you talk to them that it is that passion. It is a real passion. It's not like, oh, this is the family business I'm involved in. It's something they truly want to do.
Yeah, it's something that they've always said, like, when can I start training?
Yeah.
When can I be involved? And obviously, like for Joe, when he made his debut, it was pushing for it. It's like, when can I do it? When can I have my debut, man? And it was good to see him get to that point.
Yeah,
but
I remember the audience
for Brett.
reaction.
We told him he had to wait to a certain point, and it was just, you could see the anticipation there. And when he had his first match, he loved it. But it was. I mean, the other two, Brett and Sean, Sean and Owen, they're going to be at that point. They're going to be like, when can we start? They've all got that passion for it. They've all got that same drive to get in there and perform on the shows.
Yeah. Going back to what you said about the mobility shop, and we've spoken about this once before, but at the time, obviously, didn't mean anything to either of us. I went into that mobility shop one time because I just saw all the wrestling stuff. I was looking around, got talking to a guy working there, and he's like, "Do you want to see some of the belts?" And I looked at them, and they were so cool. Skip forward 2 years. I'm going down for my first UKW show to watch my first UKW show. Suddenly gets introduced. UKW CEO Jonathan Sedgwick walks out. I'm like, that's the guy we're talking to in mobility shop. Yeah, obviously, I didn't know you owned the company. I thought you just worked there.
But yeah, that was obviously that's the birth of it. That's how it all began with the wrestling store. Is what.
I do remember when they had a fair in Ossett.
Yes,
you used to there was a table outside. Valcabius was there. He was the champion. He was signing autographs.
That was build up for Restoration 5, I believe.
Yeah.
Because we had Hades there as well. And I remember we were doing the little mini sort of press conference outside.
Yeah. Well, I didn't see all of it because I was with some friends who were just passing by. But I remember a friend of mine saw Val and he saw the belt there, and he says to me, "Oh, why don't you go back to your place, get your replica belt, come back and challenge him?" I looked at one look at Val and I was like, "This guy could eat me."
Yeah, he's a big lad too.
Yeah, he's big, he's strong, so muscular. Intimidating looking as a wrestler, but such a sweetheart in real life.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
I mean, when I've spoken to him, he's always been so polite, and I could talk to him, I could question him, and he'd help me out. Yeah.
That's it. It's like most characters we have in wrestling in everyday life. The great guys that can get on with them, but then obviously it's the characters that they portray on screen.
Out of everyone you've met, here's a question for you. Out of everyone you've met, who would you say is least like their character? Because so many wrestlers nowadays, they sort of like take their character and dial it up to 100. They sort of take their personality, their real life personality, and dial it up to 100 to make the character. Who would you say is like the least like their character who you've met?
That's a good one. That's a good one. Right now, is like if we just talk about say UKW or something, I'd probably say somebody like Sebastian Mercer.
Yeah.
If you look at him in everyday life, like in training and whatnot, and then you see him on the shows, he's a completely different person.
I have to admit, I mean, going out of kayfabe here, but I've met Sebastian Mercer in training. I've trained with him. So humble. So he's a sponge. He really takes it all in. He listens to everything. But then you see him on the show, and you'd think he knew it all.
That's it.
He's so
arrogant character he plays. It's amazing.
And he pulls it off so well. Yeah, I do see big things for that guy.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, but speaking of big things, a lot of people have come through UKW and gone on to wrestling like WWE, haven't they? And,
That's it,
and AEW and that.
I mean, it's always great to see people achieve that sort of level. We couldn't.
Because you can always tie it back to you and be like, oh yeah, they were here, they trained here, they did a show with us. You've got that lineage with them then.
Yeah. It's always nice to see people have that success and move on.
Yeah, I remember a time, I think it was just after the pandemic when we first came back. You and I were talking, and I was talking to you about who was like your worst. The worst guest that you'd had on one of your shows, and who was the best guest that you had on one of your shows. And I'm not going to say the worst guest because I'm trying to stay positive here, but the best one, I do remember you saying Bret Hart. And
Bret was great, and Jerry Lynn was another one. Jerry Lynn, he wasn't one of our shows, but we did an event with 1PW, One Pro Wrestling, at the Doncaster Dome. We was doing the merchandise and stuff there at that one, when we had the squared circle. And Jerry Lynn was another one, just such a nice guy.
Yeah.
I went to the hotel where all the guys was like Sandman and everybody. But yeah, Jerry was the first one that walked up and introduced himself, and it's just one of them guys that you could just sit and have a conversation with. It was so easygoing and polite.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it when you find that though, especially if it's somebody who's like a total jerk in the ring.
Yeah.
And then you go up to them afterwards and they'll talk to you.
They've had that success. They've reached the top of this game, and they've been to everywhere, like obviously like WWE or ECW, Impact, or whatever. They've reached that level, but yet they're still
got the feet on the ground.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, it doesn't go to the head or anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in the end, that's what you hear a lot of wrestlers saying, is that you've got to remember it's all about the fans.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for the fans, you wouldn't be where you are.
Well, that's it. There'd be nothing for us to
exactly. Yeah. Because if you get, because I mean, people can say, "Oh, I've got that reaction from fans." It's like, yeah, but if those fans chose not to react to you, you'd be nowhere.
That's it. Exactly.
Yeah. So you've got to be proud of yourself always, but at the same time, you've got to be thankful to them.
Definitely. Obviously, that's it. If there wasn't for the crowd, there would be no shows.
Yeah.
But obviously, they're the ones that bring the atmosphere.
Of course.
They're the ones that come back every single week and give us something to perform to.
Yeah, something I've noticed, not just on UKW shows, but on a lot of shows, is that it's, especially with British indie wrestling, is getting a crowd going in the beginning is sometimes a bit difficult because they want to play, but they're nervous about being the only person who's making a noise. Yeah, nobody wants to be the first person to make a noise because they don't want to be the only person to make the noise.
Just in case. So if you do something big enough for them to react to, then the whole room will react, and then you generally walk with that point. They're quite happy to.
Yeah. And it's not always, but sometimes I've known people go out to a wrestling ring and then come back and say, "Ooh, that crowd's a bit dead." But then you go out there and it's like, boom, you hit the right thing, and suddenly the crowd's alive, and it's like, yes, this is why I got into this.
Sometimes you could go out and they just erupt. They're just walking out there. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we get that for such as like Mustafa Khan, don't we?
Sheikh Maktoum.
Sheikh Maktoum, yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's one of the top ones for that, He'll walk out there and, doesn't really need to say anything. Everyone knows him. They know he's going to do something. It doesn't matter what, it doesn't have to do it. They know it's going to happen. So they're just waiting for it to happen, and it's like, yeah, come on, and they just get all worked up from the anticipation.
But that's what wrestling is, isn't it? It's creating them moments and that atmosphere, and it's that entertainment. That's what we all love.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah. I mean, I love that. Always have done. Even just watching it on telly. I started watching it when I was 8 years old. I think it was SummerSlam '91 I saw, and I was hooked on it straight away.
SummerSlam '91.
Yeah.
That was the one with Mr. Perfect and Bret Hart for the Intercontinental Championship. I can still watch that show and enjoy it because every match on that show had a story to it. I'd say that probably the only one that seemed like just a simple match was probably IRS and Greg Valentine. It just seemed like a simple everyday match, whereas like all the rest, whether they were good matches, goofy matches, whatever, they had a story going on in all of them. Big build up to them, and they all had meaning to them.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was also building the future as well, because it's like guys were winning titles, but at the same time building feuds with other guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll never
get over old days.
Yeah, I'll never get over the Mountie going to jail. That was a classic.
I remember the Mountie. Mountie was great.
Here comes the interruption.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, Mountie going to jail. That was just a classic segment.
I remember me and my brother making the nightstick. These. Zapper that he had. Yeah. We made one with a lighter. So it didn't do anything. It just when you do the light and it sparks. That were our.
Yeah.
And we had with the clicker out of the oven. The things at the time, it was just we was trying to be creative.
Hey, when I was a kid and I was playing wrestling, I was using scarves as championship belts. It's all imagination back then, isn't it?
Yeah. The time is we're bold, aren't we? Like kids these days, they make the belts out of cereal boxes and stuff.
Well, when I was a kid, I made some cardboard wrestling belts. At first it was just like a piece of cardboard cut in shape of a belt, and I'd draw it on. And then I went one further by cutting out the shape of the belt, then cutting out the plates from another piece of cardboard and sticking it on. But that's the thing. We all want to be part of that world and be involved in it. You can play wrestling in your back garden. As far as you were concerned, there's 20,000 people screaming your name.
And yeah, look at it now.
Yeah,
We get to do it.
yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way. But also, skipping away from wrestling for a moment, you're also an actor. Because as we know, you've been doing some work over the last few years. Got held up, unfortunately, by the pandemic. Like
I mean, obviously, something else that I've always had a love for is films, and it was something I always thought it was nice to be able to get involved in at some point. And then obviously the Babyface movie came up, and what we've shot of that has been a great experience, and it'd be nice to finally get that finished and get it out so people can actually see again the hard work and the effort that's gone into it from all the crew and the director and everything. It's something that it'd be nice to pursue a bit more, but at the moment, obviously, wrestling takes precedence because it's at the minute with the TV channel thing, it's really starting to take off at the minute.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is where all the time and focus goes.
I mean, but doing Babyface, I mean, did you film any of the wrestling scenes before the pandemic, or was it just like the backstage?
We filmed some test wrestling scenes.
Right.
So we had like the characters in the ring that was going to be wrestling. Obviously, because I was doing the choreographing as well for the wrestling scenes. Yeah,
that's what I was going to ask about. Was when how is it different to filming something like that to filming a show? So because like filming Showdown, you've got to be on the ball all the time, haven't you? Like
that's it, yeah.
Skip to this camera, skip to this camera.
The film, it was like we'd work through a sequence and they'd act it out in the ring, the cameras would film it, but then you'd have to redo it again. Obviously you just do it from different angles, it's just doing the same thing over and over, like in any type of filming, acting type thing, you just do the same scene over and over and over, which was the same thing of that. So it was different being in do it obviously because we're used to getting, like you say, getting in the ring and just doing it. You got one time, one shot, and that's it. But doing it for the film was totally different.
I mean, I think it was something Kevin Nash once said about there's a major difference between a wrestling company putting out a TV show and a TV company putting out a wrestling show. Because it's like you guys, you're a wrestling company and you're putting out the TV show, which is Showdown, Genesis, and all your shows. So it's like you need to be on the ball of when to cut from this to the next. The cameramen going around the ring, they've got to make sure that they're on the ball of when to be in the right position. Because like somebody might be going for a move, and if you're in the wrong position, you don't see it right.
That's it.
So them having been part of wrestling for so long, they know that the move is coming. It's like, right, we move to this.
But in the same sense, if you're doing a TV company doing a wrestling show, they're used to sort of having like sort of static cameras, or they're on tripods, and so it'd be a completely different scenario for them, wouldn't it?
Yes, but I am looking forward to seeing Babyface when it finally comes out.
You and me both.
Yeah. Right, so if we could talk about something we were talking about earlier today, which is what I said about there are so many promotions in England, and some that are just in it for the love of wrestling. Then you get some that get a bit too competitive, because competition is good, always. You know, this company's doing really well. Let's up our game and try doing ours well. But a few years ago, I noticed a lot of companies seemed to think they were in the middle of the Monday Night Wars, which they're not. No company in England is throwing out the money that WWE and WCW were throwing out at that time.
Definitely not.
No. And also the other thing being, when you hear about promoters going to shows to poach talent, in inverted commas, you can't, because they're all independent wrestlers. They'll go where they want to go.
Like the indie scene, nobody's under any sort of contract or anything. So
Yes. But as I say, you see, it's like, I'm going to steal these from this promotion. No, you're not. They'll come work for you, and then they'll go back there, and then they'll come work for you again.
They'll go wherever the work is.
Yeah, and as I've said it to a few people before. That a big reason why I respect you so much is because I saw you during that time, and you weren't getting involved in it. You were concentrated on yours.
I've got a focus on UK wrestling. That's my focus.
Exactly, that's what I mean.
Got time to be getting into petty arguments.
That's what I mean. It's like you saw people that were doing that, but you didn't bite ever.
No.
You were focused on your show, your situation, and if these people want to come be on your show, be professional, add to the show, brilliant. If they didn't, no big loss.
No, definitely. I mean, that's always been the goal and the drive, is to push UK wrestling as far as we could. I mean, obviously, when we first started, we had 12th of July 2009 with Restoration 1. In February 2011, we had our first TV show, UK Wrestling Mayhem, on my channel on Sky. And so, obviously, we'd only been running a little over 12 months. And online, there was a lot of hate towards us, a lot of stick, because we'd achieved that level. But I'd always strived to be better.
Yeah.
Obviously, when we started, I always said I wanted to be something. I want to build it into a company.
Yeah.
I want it to have its own legs and be able to grow. So I wasn't satisfied with just running out of working men's clubs every month, every 3 months, whatever, which is all well and good. I have nothing against that. That's where we started. But I had ambitions. I wanted it to grow. I wanted to push it and go as far as we could. So that's when we started doing the bigger venues, and then we got a Zone, Thunderdome, and whatnot. And that's when we got the TV show. And so we were getting slack from people saying, "Oh, this shouldn't be on telly." But it's like, well, I've worked hard for that.
Yeah.
I've done what I need. I've put the hours in and the effort in to get to that stage, which is I've continued. That's what I've done since we started in day one. I have pushed and worked hard to get UK wrestling to the level it's at.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to apologise for that.
No,
if nobody else wanted to push their company to that level, that's not my fault.
Yeah.
So then if they wanted to talk about us online, let them be.
Yeah.
I was achieving what I wanted to achieve, so I was quite happy and content with that. And I will keep doing that until it keeps growing to where it needs to be.
Yeah.
If people have got an issue with that, then that's
on them. Yeah.
That's on them. Yeah.
It's their problem. Yeah, I mean, it brings me back to, I know I've referenced WWE a couple of times on this, but there was a quote from Triple H that keeps showing up on Instagram years ago from a promo he did with Seth Rollins, where he said, "Why is success a bad thing? If you're a millionaire, you're evil. If you're a billionaire, you're the Antichrist." And the thing is, it's true. Yeah. When you look online, people hate success.
Yes, that's it. But I can't see why.
No, neither can I.
When we'll just stick to wrestling. If everyone's doing good in wrestling, that's a good thing for wrestling. I've always been open-minded and willing to work with anyone. I've never had that issue where it's like, well, I can't work with them because they're another company, or anything like that, or I can't work with them because they appear on that show. Yeah. Why? We're all in it for the same game. We all love wrestling. We all want to entertain the crowd. Why can't everyone just get along?
Yeah, I mean, the only reason really to refuse to work with somebody is if they're a hazard.
Yeah, if they're unprofessional or anything
unprofessionalism, hazardous.
We're all in it for the same goal.
Yeah.
So, I mean, imagine if like a number of the UK promotions got together. Imagine the level of the event you could put on.
I know. Yeah.
It'd be amazing. But nobody's willing to do it.
No, it's much like something like if you go to a company and you see all the staff talking about going on strike. They'll talk about it. How many of them will actually do it? And it's all because nobody trusts each other in this company, and everybody thinks to themselves, "I'll be the only one to walk out." And it's much like you say with that. There's so much distrust amongst promotions,
which
there shouldn't be.
Silly. No,
yeah, exactly. There shouldn't
no
be.
Reason to.
So it's like
we're all in for the same goal. We're all here to do the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we want to do this, but are we the only ones that want to do this? And the truth is, no. A lot of promotions want to do it. It's just a question of getting in touch with each other and building that bond. And really, through the wrestlers, as we said, they're all independent wrestlers that can go wherever they want. That bond can be built. It's just a question of will it. So yeah, I mean, it's like right now. I mean, your heavyweight champion is now the world heavyweight champion because it's Paul Hubris. He's gone back to America to wrestle over there. Same with Shauna Reed as the world television champion. So it's really expanding not only the company but also the branding.
I've given them that. I said to them, "You're welcome to go and defend them in these different companies and abroad." It is what it is.
Yeah. It expands the branding of the company as well.
I'm all for it.
Yeah, it's a good way to be. It's a good way to look at it. Like I say, I've got a lot of respect for you as a businessman. Yeah, I just wish I had your patience because I've seen a lot of stuff that you've had to put up with, and I just wouldn't have the patience for it. But I've always respected you as a businessman because I don't know what's the best way to say this that doesn't sound crawly, but it's because you know what your focus is. You've got your goal, but then beyond that goal is a greater goal. But you've got to get to the goal first.
You can't just say right. You can't run before you can walk, as the saying goes. So it's you have a goal. You have points to get to that goal. Obviously, you've got to be able to achieve a certain point before you can move on. So you've got to have a greater goal all the time, but you've got to have realistic goals to be able to achieve, to be able to get to that point.
Of course, yeah. I mean, everybody, you get so many people leave school saying, I'm going to be, I'm going to play for England in World Cup. But, do they have the bottle to actually go play for a local team?
That's it, and you've got to start, you've got to be willing to start where you need to start and be able to grow.
But, you've worked hard, you put this company together, you're expanding it all over the world, expanding your own horizons, as you say, with Babyface and with the acting career. I had so many questions, I wish I'd written them down now. But, hey, this is my first time, okay?
You can always do a part two.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. You'll be the Undertaker to my Steve Austin. But, as I say, when I first got into wrestling 7 years ago, it was the year after my wife passed away, and it was basically me looking at the situation like, I don't want to be on my deathbed saying, I wish I'd done that. Yeah. So for me, it was living a dream. I thought I'd come into wrestling, maybe do a bit of training, see if it works out for me. Then it was like, I want to expand on the training. I came to UKW. I saw that I got offered a place on one of your academy shows, one of your training shows, and it was like, right, I want to be on the show. Then I want to do another show, and it was like, I slowly built up. Yeah, and eventually, I do remember when I won the academy title in 2017. As I was saying, when I won the academy title, that was going to be it for me. I was actually ready to retire. Something that I've only been honest about recently. I was actually ready to retire after I lost that, and it was like halfway through the match where I lost it that I just decided I'm never leaving this place. I took a suplex through a bin, and I was like, you know what, I'm in pain, but I'm not miserable. I want to keep doing this.
There's something about wrestling that always pulls you back in.
Yeah.
It's just it's got that hook that just it pulls so many people in, and then once you're in, you just can't get out. No matter how many times you say you would, that's it.
Yeah. As you say with Sebastian Mercer earlier on, him and also the other Dogs of War, all the people that you see on Genesis, the newbies that we see on Showdown, they've all joined up, and we've watched them grow into the characters and really build on their own passions.
It's great to see some of them when they come in and they're so shy and timid, and it's just you see them grow over time, and they come out of their shell, and they have so much more confidence about themselves, and it's great to see, and to think that wrestling's giving them that.
Yeah. Right, well, since we've got a lot to do for this show tonight, I think I'm going to wrap it up right there. Very first episode of Tales of the Unberechenbar with my friend and mentor, Jonathan Sedgwick. Jonathan, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And hopefully this won't be the last episode. I've got a few more planned with wrestlers such as Jester J-Ro Lewis and also Mustafa Khan, and also a good friend of mine, John D. Ashton, the author. Thank you all for listening in on this, and yes, I know I've been stuttering a lot during this, but take it easy on me in the comments, okay? I'll catch you all